This hike is just waterfall after lake, after a border walk over a bog, after trails through the trees, through to babbling bracks, to epic viewpoints such as this one, and epic views like this one, to another lake, through to cutesy and slightly perilous bridges, crossing more babbling bracks, through huge boulder fields, and another lake, even more babbling bracks, to even more waterfalls, to even more amazing vistas, to yet another lake, through to even more gushing streams, and even some proper thundering waterfalls.
Hi, I'm Caroline, a teacher living in South London who loves going away on adventures. But with vacation time restricted to peak school holidays, flights and package holidays are all too often overpriced. I'm always on the lookout for adventures that don't end up breaking the bank. So in 2018, when I received an email from Jack's Flight Club making me aware of return flights from London to a range of US destinations, my interest peaked. I quickly bagged 2 open-jaw tickets flying into Denver, Colorado and back home from Phoenix, Arizona 3 weeks later for a bargainous £295. From Denver, we drove a few hours out to the Rocky Mountain National Park. But with elevations between 8 and 14,000 feet and a 7-hour time difference, we struggled a lot battling the high altitudes, thinner air, and also a constant feeling of jet lag.
Good morning and welcome to the Rocky Mountain National Park here in Colorado. Is Alluvial Fan. It's very easy to be able to access. There's a couple of parking lots on either side of the river, and at the moment they seem to be building a footbridge to be able to link you to access them both without having to walk on the road. However, unfortunately at the moment that's not the case. We've had to go down onto the main road to be able to get onto either side, but it's really easy to access for most people of all abilities. The Alluvial Fan was created back in the early 1900s after a dam way up in the mountains had burst, and all of the debris and the water that came gushing down started to slow down around about this point, and geographically it's created this alluvial fan and also the beautiful waterfalls that you can see behind me.
After visiting the Alluvial Fan, we took a drive on the Old Fall River Road, a gorgeous scenic drive closed off to vehicles in the winter. We passed countless waterfalls, including Chasm Falls, and what with its hairpin bends and steep gradient, the further we drove, the more spectacular the view became. Eventually, we popped out above the tree line, only to be greeted by huge patches of snow still on the mountainside, despite it being late July. The road ended at the Alpine Visitors Centre, where, upon getting out of the car, there was a noticeable difference in the air temperature. However, the views across the park were phenomenal, and we were lucky enough to see a herd of deer in the distance, including stags with their impressive antlers. We took the main road back to Estes Park for a later than planned lunch, before making our way north of the town to the Lumpy Ridge Trailhead. When we set off on this 1.75 mile walk up to Gem Lake, it was 11 o'clock at night back home. But determined to make the most of our trip, we set off and battled through the altitude's thin air and the overwhelming feeling of jet lag to be rewarded with panoramic views, a sheltered but placid lake aptly named Gem Lake. However, upon reaching the parking lot after walking yet another 1.75 miles back to the car, it felt like we'd just conquered Everest, not the casual meander that this probably was for most others on that trail.
Good morning and welcome to our day 2 in the Rocky Mountain National Park. We have managed to come up here to Emerald Lake, which is what you can see behind me. And I have to say this has to be one of the most spectacular hiking trails that I have done. I think that if Disney did hiking trails, this would probably be it. We unfortunately had to park in the parking ride because the parking lot at the bottom of this trail at the trailhead is quite small. We did have to queue for like a good 40 or so minutes, but the camaraderie down there was really lovely. We got got talking to people in front of us and behind us in the queue. And the guys in front were from Texas and the guys behind us were from Ohio, and they were just able to give us loads of tips because they come to the Rocky Mountain National Park quite often. And then when the bus dropped us off, our trail started at Bear Lake, which was beautiful but quite busy because obviously it's right next to the parking lot. And then we started hiking, and the next lake that we got to was Nymph Lake, which was beautiful. It had all of these water lilies on it, but lots and lots of the flowers were out as well, and loads of dragonflies buzzing around. And then we kept on hiking, and the next lake that we got to was Dream Lake, and then finally at the end of the trail is this one, Emerald Lake. And all the way up here there's just been gushing streams that we've had to cross over, there's been tumbling waterfalls, and it's just been a surprise around pretty much every single corner. And even though there isn't some amazing viewpoint at the very end, it's like every little bit that we've managed to get to has had some kind of an amazing viewpoint in it. We're thoroughly enjoying ourselves, so we think that we might now take a detour off to a lake. I'm not entirely sure how you pronounce it. We think it's Lake Hayaha, but I'm not too sure. We are only a few days into our 3-week trip, and there's still so much to come. Be sure to subscribe so that you can explore with us the national parks of Yellowstone, with its abundance of wildlife, geothermal activity, and beautiful swim spots, Capitol Reef, and discover that Utah's least visited national park is an almost deserted gem, Arches, where we may have got lost in what I can only describe as the world's most spectacular natural maze, a lazy but beautiful afternoon drive around canyonlands, and the Grand Canyon as you've probably never pictured it. We'll also stop off at a few other places that our America the Beautiful National Park Pass gives us entry to, as well as some places that weren't included in the pass. Some on reflection weren't worth the extra cost, whilst others absolutely were. I look forward to sharing my adventures with you.